we're talking, again, 900-ton stones that were moved approximately.
What if the most advanced technology on Earth isn't hidden in a secret laboratory, but is sitting in plain sight, carved into the jagged peaks of the Andes? Visualize yourself standing before a 100-ton block of solid granite, shaped with the surgical precision of a laser in a time when history claims the only tool available was a round river stone. Most people believe the Inca built these marvels, but the Inca themselves had a chillingly different explanation. They claimed they didn't build them, they simply found them. This admission by one of the greatest empires in history leaves us with a haunting void. If the masters of the Andes did not create these structures, then who possessed the power to move mountains? This question has haunted explorers for centuries, but as we move through 2025, the answers are finally beginning to emerge from the dust of the high plateau. The mystery begins with a detail rarely mentioned in textbooks, a detail that changes the entire nature of the Stone Age. In the heart of the Peruvian highlands, there are stones that have been vitrified, literally turned to glass. In early 2025, new thermal analysis of the walls at Sacsayhuaman revealed that the surface of these multi-ton blocks was once subjected to temperatures exceeding 1,500 degrees Celsius. To achieve this today, you do not use a hammer and chisel. You use a plasma torch or a concentrated thermal beam. This suggests that these ancient builders were not just hitting rocks, they were manipulating matter at a molecular level. We are looking at the remnants of a technology that did not just cut stone, but melted it into place. But here is where the story takes an even stranger turn. As you move from the scorched surfaces of these outer walls into the heart of the ancient city of Cusco, a bizarre architectural pattern emerges. The foundation of the city is built with H-blocks and interlocking polygons that are mathematically perfect. If you were to try and replicate this today, you would need a 5-axis CNC machine and a team of software engineers. Yet, the layers built on top of these foundations by later civilizations are crude, held together with mud, straw, and clay. Think about that for a second. It is a fundamental law of human history that technology improves over time. We went from horse carriages to spaceships, not the other way around. But in the Andes, the oldest structures are the most advanced. This is what researchers are now calling the inverted timeline anomaly. It suggests that a high-tech civilization was already at its peak, and perhaps in its final decline, long before the first Incan king ever took his first breath. So if they had the technology to melt granite, where did they get it? The indigenous oral traditions, passed down through generations of Incan royalty, speak of the Puruaucas, the stones that breathed. They describe a legendary substance, a liquid derived from rare, red-leaved jungle plants that could soften granite until it had the consistency of warm wax. While that sounds like pure mythology, the science of 2025 is starting to catch up. Botanists working in the Peruvian highlands recently identified a specific species of bird that uses a particular leaf to dissolve rock faces to create nesting holes. If a bird can use chemistry to melt stone, did a lost civilization discover the industrial-scale version of this chemical key? It would explain the pillowing effect seen on these massive blocks. They were not carved to fit. They were softened, pressed together, and allowed to harden. This would make the stones fit so tightly that not even a human hair or a razor blade could pass between them. But if they could soften stone like wax, what were they actually building? The story moves from the mountains of Peru to the high plateau of Bolivia to a place called Puma Punku. This site is often called the Lego set of the gods. Here, we find blocks of andesite, one of the hardest minerals on Earth, featuring perfectly straight grooves and tiny equidistant drill holes. Modern engineers have noted that these grooves are not just decorative, they are modular. In 2025, digital reconstructions of the site showed that when these blocks are fitted together, they create a structure that is perfectly earthquake-proof. The stones were designed to vibrate in harmony with the earth, dissipating seismic energy. This is not the work of a primitive tribe trying their best. This is the work of an architect who understood structural resonance and the physics of wave dissipation. It feels less like a temple and more like a machine. This brings us to a question that has kept explorers awake for centuries. If they were this advanced, what happened to their tools? This is where the legend of the mirrored discs comes back into play. Ancient Incan chronicles describe golden plates that did not just reflect the sun, but were used for consultation with the spirits of the sky. While historians long dismissed this as religious metaphor, the year 2025 has brought us a physical breakthrough. Deep-sea sonar scans of Lake Titicaca have located massive metallic signature anomalies at the bottom of the lake, right where the legends say the great sun disk was hidden to protect it from the Spanish gold lust. These objects do not appear to be jewelry. Their internal geometry, mapped through ground-penetrating radar, suggests they may have been sophisticated data storage devices or communication arrays. Is it possible that the gods of the Andes left behind their hardware and we simply mistook it for treasure? The more we look, the more we see that this was not just a local phenomenon. If we look at the global map of these megalithic sites from Egypt to Easter Island to the Andes, they all share a terrifying commonality. They all appear to have been hit by a sudden, violent, and planetary-scale catastrophe. At Puma Punku, 80-ton blocks are scattered across the landscape as if a giant hand swiped them off a table. There is no evidence of slow decay or gradual abandonment. There is only evidence of a great reset. Geological dating in 2025 now suggests this event occurred roughly 12,800 years ago. This was a time of global flooding and fire that wiped the slate of humanity clean. This means the Inca were not the creators of these sites. They were the post-apocalyptic survivors who moved into the ruins of a world that was far more advanced than our own. They were like people living in the ruins of a fallen New York City, using the subway tunnels as shelters without knowing how the electricity once worked. As we piece this together, the message of the Andes becomes clear and quite humbling. We are a species with amnesia. We have forgotten that we have reached the pinnacle of technology before, and we have lost it all before. The stones are not just ruins, they are a warning. They show us that no matter how high we build, the Earth has a way of reclaiming its silence. To truly grasp the magnitude of this lost chapter, we have to look at the sheer logistical impossibility of the sites. Take Ollantaytambo, a fortress perched high on a cliff. To get the stones to the top, the builders had to move them across a massive river valley, down one mountain, across the water, and up another near vertical face. In 2025, logistical software calculated the calories required for a human labor force to achieve this. The result? It would have been physically impossible to feed enough workers in that high-altitude environment to provide the necessary horsepower. This forces us to reconsider the method entirely. If it wasn't muscle, it was something else. Some researchers have proposed acoustic levitation. While this sounds like science fiction, 2025 lab experiments have successfully used sound frequencies to lift and move small objects. Could the ancient architects have used massive horns or choral chanting to create standing waves that reduce the effective weight of the granite? The Inca myths are full of references to stones being moved by music and whistles. We often dismiss these stories as charming folklore, but perhaps they are the last echoes of a lost physics. Imagine a world where sound was the primary tool, where harmony wasn't just for the ears, but for construction. This would explain why the sites feel so organic despite their massive size. They weren't fighting nature, they were singing with it. But when the Great Reset happened 12,800 years ago, that delicate knowledge was the first thing to go. When the music stopped, the stones became heavy again, and humanity was left staring at giants it could no longer move. The legacy of this era lived on through the royal Incan lineage who claimed to be the children of the sun. But even they were struggling to hold on to the truth. By the time the Spanish arrived, much of the high technology had been replaced by ritual. The mirrored discs were no longer understood as communication devices, but were worshipped as idols. The liquid stone plants were still known, but the exact proportions of the mixture were lost. The Inca were the inheritors of a dying light, doing their best to preserve a glory they didn't fully comprehend. This brings us to a chilling realization. If we are the current peak of the cycle, how close are we to our own reset? Our modern world relies on a digital infrastructure that is far more fragile than granite. A single massive solar flare could wipe out our entire history in a matter of seconds. In 10,000 years, would anyone know we were here? Our steel will rust, our plastic will degrade, and our skyscrapers will crumble into dust. The silent architects of the Andes were smarter than us, they knew. that if you want to speak to the future, you have to write in the language of the Earth itself. In 2025, we are finally learning to read that language again. We are finding that the primitive label we've used for decades was a projection of our own ignorance. We looked at them and saw people with no wheels, so we assumed they were simple. We didn't stop to think that maybe they had moved past the wheel. Maybe they had found a way to interface with the world that made our modern gadgets look like clumsy toys. Every new discovery at Lake Titicaca or Puma Punku is a nudge, a reminder that we aren't the first, and we likely won't be the last. The Andes serve as a massive, stone-cold mirror. When we look at those impossible walls, we aren't just seeing the past, we are seeing a challenge for our future. We are seeing the ambition of a humanity that dared to reach for the stars and actually touch them. The transition from the Inca to the modern world hasn't been a rise, but a long, slow recovery. We are like children rediscovering a parent's old workshop. We pick up the tools, we marvel at the craftsmanship, but we still haven't figured out how to turn the power back on. However, the work being done right now by independent researchers and open-minded scientists is beginning to flip the switch. We are living in a pivotal moment where the gap between myth and science is finally closing. The deeper we dig, the more we realize that our ancestors weren't just smart for their time, they might have been more advanced in their understanding of the natural world than we are today. They didn't just live on the earth. They worked with its very frequency, its heart, and its soul. If this revelation about the hidden history of our world has sparked a fire of curiosity in you, there is so much more to see. We are constantly tracking new discoveries from the front line of archaeology that the mainstream media often overlooks. The story of our species is much grander, much older, and much more mysterious than we were ever told. This is a journey that requires us to keep our eyes open and our minds even wider. Join our community of truth seekers by subscribing to the channel. We are committed to bringing you the most up-to-date research, the most daring theories, and the most stunning evidence from around the globe. We aren't just looking at the past, we are looking for the truth. But before you go, I want to ask you something. If you were to leave a message for a civilization 10,000 years in the future, how would you write it so that it would survive? Would you use a hard drive or would you use a 100-ton block of granite? Would you use binary code or would you use the alignment of the stars? Share your theories in the comments below. Do you think we are the first advanced civilization on Earth? Or are we just the latest to try and master the stones that breathed? Your voice is a vital part of this investigation. Each comment, each theory, and each question helps us build a better picture of where we came from. Let's keep digging until the stones finally give up all their secrets. Stay curious and look closer at the world around you. Would you like me to dive deeper into the specific 2025 findings regarding the underwater ruins of Lake Titicaca? The truth is out there, waiting to be found. Let's find it together.